Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this live event by Turnip. This event was originally planned for 26th of April, but because of the COVID second wave, our plans got disrupted. But we are very, very glad to be back. Mr. Govind, he is with us today. He was also supposed to be here with us on 26th of April, but today he is going to speak on IPR strategy for startups and SMEs. His talk will be very practical in nature. Feel free to interact via the comment section. And I hope you have a great session. So I welcome Mr. Govind Kedia. Yes, Govind, you are online. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rahul, for giving me the opportunity, and welcome all of you. And as Rahul said that I was eagerly waiting to have this session again as COVID hit us all bad, and including me. So here I am doing this session again. So thank you for joining in. But before I start the session and talk about it, I just want to do a quick check about what kind of audience that we have in today. Are you from academia? Are you a student? Are you a startup? Because then I'll keep it in that context, and it will really help me to take the session more interactive, more useful for your time. I know it's a Friday, and we have been attending webinars for a very, very long time. So please help me understand what you do. Are you from academics? Are you a startup, or are you a student? That will help me a lot in my chat today. Okay, academia, startup, student. Great. Academia, IP professionals, M-Pharma students, beneath student. Yeah, great. So thank you for joining in. I welcome you all. And today's session, I know I am going to ask 1 hour from you, but here's my promise that by the end of the session, I will be able to give you some practical strategies how you have to really evaluate your ideas, how you have to really take it forward. And then I will also be able to give you some step-by-step guide for how to protect your IP, how to look at the IP, and also keep it very, very interesting and to the focus to the business. I hope that objective is good with you. If you are ready, type in ready so that I can go ahead and start my presentation. So there is a lag. So of course, I'll be speaking very slow. So please feel free to also post your questions. It will really help me to keep it in the context, right? Great. So I have the first ready in the chat box. So I'll start my presentation. Very, very quick round of introduction. Rahul has already given me. I don't want to spend a lot of time in introducing, but here is the LinkedIn link, profile link of mine. You can go ahead and check it. I'm sure you are here after checking this one, but please go ahead and do it if you want. Very, very briefly, I started Arctic Invent back in 2013, and we have supported a well-known multi-billion-dollar companies to startups who have went on to become very, very successful companies. We are working with 70 plus professionals in 6 different countries. I personally love Indian inventions. I have been working with so many Indian startups. It's an amazing ecosystem, and I really believe that we can really do a lot better in terms of innovation. We have generated a lot of value, and today my aim is to also share some tips and tricks how the companies who we have worked with made it really, really successful for them, right? I hope you are ready. Now, before I go forward, I would like to first go and talk about what is really IPRs. When we talk about IPRs, what is really mean by that, right? So if you think about it, there are 2 kind of properties, right? One you can touch, which is tangible, and one you can't touch, which is intangible. And Intangible, there are two kinds of properties: movable, immovable. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. In the intangible, you have lease, security, then there is emotions and goodwill, which you can't really touch, and then there is something intellectual, which is coming from your mind, right? Now, some common areas which, or some common intellectual properties that is generated is technology. That, we generate certain technology. It could be in any stream of science. There is brand name, right? Unique names that we can produce. There is some designs which we can produce. There is some local goodwill, local talent, some local varieties that we can produce, which is really, really intellectual. And then there are some creative work, good codes, codes that we can write, right? So now, where this IPR falls in is really how to protect these. So this is like IP and IPR, right? A lot of times we confuse with IP and IPR, right? So very, very importantly to understand that IPRs are way to protect your IP, right? So for technology, there are patents. For brand name, there is trademark. For designs, there is design registrations, or in some cases, it's utility model in some countries. Then there are geographical indications. When there is a local talent or local brand name around it, like there is so many examples, Kolhapuri Chappal, and so many Indian areas where you have seen that there is a immediate brand recall because of certain region, right? And then there is copyright around what do you create as a creative art, which includes codes as well, right? Writing codes is also an art. It's a creative process. Okay, so now let's discuss. Now, I hope this is clear to all of you. Any questions, feel free to post it on the chat, because I would like to keep it interactive. YouTube webinars are always, you can't really see people. So I please keep it interactive. Post your questions if you don't, if there is something not clear, which I explained, right? All right. So next, I would like to talk about what is business enterprise, right? If you're a student, or if you're a startup, or if you are a faculty, I think it's very, very important to dissect the business before we really go and talk about what are the practical IPR strategies, right? And I'm trying to build this context so that you see where does this IPR fall in the entire business enterprise, right? So a business enterprise is working capital, which means inventory, cash, account receivable. Then there are fixed assets, which you have laptops, machinery, offices, and so forth, right? Then there is intangible asset like people skill. What is the value proposition? You can't really touch them, but it is very, very, very important for you to be able to run a business, right? What is the business model? What is the software that you're using, right? And then there is intellectual property, right? I have already explained how intellectual property really fits in the whole scenario. So what is the intellectual property which business enterprise own, right? And what has changed with the digital economy and everything? A lot of companies have 90 to 100% value of the firm in these two categories, right? I don't want to come here and say that everything is patent, trademark, and designs. At the same time, a lot of the businesses don't have any big fixed asset, don't have a lot of working capital in a way, which is traditionally needed for running a business, but they are super valuable because of their intangible assets, their value proposition, their licenses, their business model, and in the process what they generate, right? So, and this is again, if you look at in time, how it has shifted, right? That in 1975 it was 83% fixed asset or tangible assets, right? And by 2020 now we are talking about 90%, which is intangible, right? Which is patent, brand value, customer data, software, people skills, and so forth, right? So it's very, very important to understand that IP, intangible assets, I would talk about intangible assets here. I'm not talking about IPR. That intangible assets are very, very important for the business, right? It is it contributes a lot of value in the business, right? And now that is what we are here discussing today, right? That how we can leverage this, how we can really look and identify our IPRs, and then think about it, right? Now, before that, before we go and talk about this topic, let's also think about why uh, why this intellectual property was there, and also talking about how it can help us to be more globally competitive, right? Of course, there is a lot of globalization and happening, innovations are happening, and every business is trying to be uh, creating certain kind of competitive advantage, right? And intellectual property, like I discussed, that which is 90% in some cases, a lot in lot many cases, it is one of the areas where people can build competitive edge, right? So it is very, very important to look for intellectual property, how it can be used. So that's we are going to talk about. I'm also going to share some framework that we can use and apply in practical sense to be able to understand and look at and follow the entire process in a more pragmatic manner, right? Okay, now before we get on the framework, let's also think about what is the motive of patent protection or IP protection, right? Let's keep it in a general manner. It's one of the major uh, reason for IP protection or patent protection is that you have to commercially exploit your technology or your brands. So first is definitely the commercial exploitation of what you have produced. Uh, then of course you want to protect your business by preventing imitations, theft of the data, uh, building the enterprise value, because as we have already seen that when you have 90% of the value of the business is lying in the intangible assets, you would like to also protect it and build the enterprise value, put a value around it, which is basically going to help you in terms of building that asset class for the entire business enterprise, and you can use it for the valuation, or you can use it for sort of giving kind of a benchmark of a value to the entire business model, right? It's also a great tool for marketing, right? A lot of times consumer perception is also built by a lot of good IP around it. There has been numerous examples. If you look around, you will find numerous examples. I mean, I have been looking at TV ads where people are talking about having patents. In the academic, I think a lot of people are here from academics. Of course, it's also a lot of universities also advertise it as to prove that they are very innovative universities and so forth, right? So that's also a motive for registering a patent or a design, or protecting technology or whatever they are producing, which gives uh, a sense of protection as well as a sense of value, that why whatever we have done has certain things which is not of value. Rahul, there are a lot of people talking about screen not clear. Can I do something to make it more clear? It is fairly clear at my end, so I don't know what can I do to do it. Can you unmute yourself and help me understand that?
We are streaming at 1080. So
Okay.
please, Spurti, go to the bottom right of your screen and select high definition 1080. Okay. And if anyone else has the problem, please write. Okay. So just with one person, it may not be, no, because I can see quite clearly
Okay.
in my
Great.
stream.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. A lot of people were saying, so I thought maybe take a pause and do it. Thank you for that. So, of course, as I was saying, that there has to be very clear motives when you are thinking about protecting your IPRs, right? And here we are talking about how startups can leverage the IPRs. First is to also establish your motive, right? Why you are doing it, right? We first would like to do it. Otherwise, there is no point talking about, and then we don't really feel that yes, we have achieved our objective, right? So it's very, very important to figure out what is the motive of registering your patent, trademark, designs, or copyrights. What is the real end motive of it, right? Uh, and then, of course, it is also important in order to leverage the intellectual assets. Now we are shifting from IP to IP assets, and as I said, registration after registration it becomes an asset because you can really sell it, license it, and so forth, right? So now I'm shifting from intangible uh, property to intellectual asset, right? Now when we talk about intellectual assets, it needs a proactive and resource effective approach. It is something that you need to really, really carefully handle as well. And there is always an interplay between commercial and the IP uh, as well. It is very, very important to understand what is a relationship between what am I doing in the business, what how it's going to help, right? It is not in the silo that hey, there is a patent which probably is not related to my business or which is related to business but not really help us, right? So it's very, very important to also see the interplay of intellectual assets or intellectual property in terms of your business model, your other intangible assets around the business, right? And of course, if there is a failure of doing this, then of course there is always instances where businesses close, there is lost funding opportunities and so forth, right? Now what is there any method, any framework that we can produce, right? And this is something which I have thought a lot, built all my experiences which I had with IP, working with so many startups. I sort of squeezed in a very, very single sort of which we are I have put it as an acronym of lodestar. And lodestar is really mean a north star, which basically help and guide of the direction, right? And this is something I'm going to talk about today, discussing this framework. And it's something which you can always refer, always remember when you are talking about intellectual property for your business. It is something which I feel that it is a very good framework for you to plan your intellectual assets and think about how it's going to help me in the business and so forth, right? So I'll talk about how to use lodestar and and also how to use in your business, right? Now before I go there, is there any is the pace of my talk is okay? Is it going good? Are you learning something? If you are, just say yes so that I can understand that it is going in the right direction and we are going in the right direction. So just type in yes. I'll take a pause for a 15 seconds so that the lag really covers. So please type in yes so that I can move forward. Okay, great. Thank you, Preet. Thank you, Saurang. Thank you, Murchana. Thank you, Atesh. Good to see you here. Thank you, Apurva. Thank you, all of you. There is a lot of participants here. I am really glad that you can you can be here. Okay, so Nikhil, Lodestar, I am going to discuss further. So Lodestar, it is a framework which I have sort of came across. Squeezing all the experiences I had working with a lot of startups, how we can use a step-by-step approach to approach IP for any company, for any business, for any technology, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about in the future slides. Now, you can take a screenshot of it, you can remember it, you can note it down, right? Now, Lodestar is actually an acronym for which I'll talk about look, options, act, defend, cost, watch, and react, right? So this is like Lodestar is an acronym for all these steps. So you can note it down, right? Now I'll discuss each and every part of it. It's just not this. Of course, we'll talk about what you can do, how you can do it. It's going to be very, very practical, as I promised. As I promised with you, right? Now, let's look at the first. What is look, right? Now, it is very important before you even think about IP, right? Think about IPRs for your business, for whatever you are doing. First, think about where does it fit in the entire value chain. Right? How will you be finding? How are you going to commercially exploit this IP? Right? What is the real use for it? Right? How you can really put it in the practice? Right? So first understand. So this is the first step. That look that how IP fits in the entire value chain. Right? Now you'll ask me, what can I do to answer this question? Right now, I know I have the questions. We have more material, right? So, but first is to sit back, look that why IP is important, how it fits in my business value chain. Right now, the next slide is very, very important. So please pay attention on this one. So first step is to note down these questions. So if you are a startup, if you are a student, so take a screenshot of this, or you can note down this question. This is very important in terms of entire IP strategy. If you do these questions properly, I can promise you that you have done half of your job, really, right? So as I said, I mean, these questions will really help you to define look part of the Lodestar framework, right? What is the business problem that you're solving? Like, think about it. Okay, what is the business problem am I solving? Right? Am I making consumer, smart? Am I making something easy for the consumer and so forth? Right? Then think about why this is unique. Right? Why this business is unique? This technology is unique. Then think about what is the technical problem that you have solved, really. That, okay, it was previously possible or previously not possible because of this technical challenge, and I have solved this during my product development, right? Now, for B2, where there is a branding involved, how this will generate brand royalty. Is it going to be my unique logo, my unique unique taglines, and what is it that will create the brand loyalty, right? Then if there is something aesthetic about your product, is it about, let's say you have created a new unique design of something, then think about, okay, what aspect of that design is unique? Like if you created an electric vehicle and it looks very unique, right? So there must be something which must be very, very unique about it, right? So answer these questions for yourself, right? This is very important when you are thinking about IP, going to an IP lawyer or anyone expert in the area. This is the same question he may ask you in a different manner, but do this homework, right? This is a very, very important homework. Right? Now, what else you can do is also to go on Google Patents, right? And write something which is going to, this is a link which is exclusively search for Google. You can note it down. It's a very simple link. So you can go on this link. This links only gives you result of patents. It does not give you result of regular web search. It will only give you the patent results, right? Now, use this for finding some patents around your area. That will help you answer some of the questions that I have given you, right? This is very, very important. Then again, if you are doing brand related searches, so go on this where you can find some existing trademarks, right? Anil, you can also Google, like Google patents on Google. You will find this link. Otherwise, you can note it down. I'll just quickly look this one. question mark TBM is equal to PTS. It's fairly straightforward link, right? So you can go forward and use this. This is again, you can type it, trademark search India Patent Office. You will find these links on the Google itself, right? Now, the first part is look, right? The second part is options, right? Now, once you identify what is the business problem, what is the technical problem, what is the unique aspect about your code, about your designs, then think about what are the options that you have, right? Remember the first or the second slide which I showed, where we talked about what kind of intellectual property is protected by what kind of right? Trademarks are for the brands or your identity. Designs are for your unique aesthetic designs or something you can touch and feel. Designs are also allowed in US, in Europe as well, where they talk about the user interface of a software as well. In India, it has to be something physical which you can touch. So in India, the UI UX is not pretty much protectable, but again, you can do this in some other countries. Copyright, something you want to keep it confidential when you answer these questions. Again, look about, there is also options of open innovation networks. So there are a lot of options, right, which you can always discuss with your patent attorney or expert in this area. But very important to really look for what are the options that you have for all the assets that you have identified in the look part, right? So the first part of the lodestar was look. The second part was the options, right? Now, very quickly, I'm sure you guys know this. Trademarks are for the names, and I have already explained, which is something which is a unique aspect of your business. So it could be name, it could be tagline, it could be a logo, which you will use to signify or market your brand, right? Then it is designs, like which is typically ornamental look and feel of the product. Typical protection year 10 years, you can extend it to 15 years in India and so forth. This is something which is mostly of the look, something which looks beautiful, right? So that is about the designs. Patents, again, it has to be technical, technology in nature. So should be technical, it should be novel, it should have industrial applicable. It's I'm sure you must have heard this many times. So something about which solves a technical problem. Look at the first thing that I've written, that technical problem. What is the technical problem that you solve? Not the business problem, right? Online shopping you can look at this from two angles. One, business problem, connecting consumer with the supplier. Technical problem, how to exchange the data so that you can exchange money, you can exchange the information of the product, right? So that is a technical problem, right? So you have to think from the technical side of it, not from the business side of it, right? I hope it is making sense. So if it is making sense, just type in make sense so that I can also move forward with that and also understand the feeling of the audience. Atish, is it possible to trademark the color combination of a logo? Yes, as long as it is unique. If it is unique in nature, if it is distinctive in nature, that can be done. And again, trademark is also limited by classes and all that. I don't want to go there. You can reach out to any trademark person or any IP professional. They will guide you. But trademark are also granted on specific service or product. So it cannot be that you just trademark and you have absolute right on a word, right? You have to really define and tell, okay, what category you want to apply for trademark for, right? Okay, so now we are done with look and options, right? Now let's move to the A part of it, lodestar, right? So A means act on the uniqueness and value, right? Now, you have already identified what you have done new. You have already identified what kind of IPR asset can make sense for you. Then it is time for you to act. A lot of people just stop after 1 and 2. right? Because they don't really act, right? It is you will get results when you act, right? So very, very important. Act on the uniqueness and the value. Look for these two words, uniqueness and the value. There could be something which is unique but may not have value. Something which has a value may not be unique. So make sure that this combination should be there, uniqueness and the value, right? And then get your first IPR. It could be patent, it could be trademark, it could be copyright, it could be designs, but go ahead and do it, right? It's very important to act on this. Don't really just talk about, think about it and don't act, right? So go ahead and do it, right? Okay, now I will very quickly scan through the process because we have 30 minutes. I have a lot to cover, but I'll quickly scan through the process of different assets. If you have any questions, you can post it. I'll try to answer in the the time left, right? Okay, great. Now, what is the patent filing process, right? I'm sure it's something that you must have read somewhere. But it's a very, very simple slide. You can take a screenshot of it. You can if you can't take a screenshot shot of it, of course, Rahul may be putting this webinar online, or you can reach out to us. We will be happy to give you. But this is something very, very important. 3 to 4 weeks takes about for your professional attorney to write it or to work with you. Then depending on where you are filing, you can get examination report. In India as well, it is possible to get examination report in 12 months. There are certain provisions, like you are a startup or you are a female inventor, you can get examination report, but by the end of 12 months you have to decide if you want to go international. There is something called as PCT, which sometimes people call it global patent. I'll talk about some myths as well. There is nothing called as global patent. There is no instrument which gives you a global protection. So PCT application just helps you to extend your time to decide where you want to go, right? And then, so this is the timeline, right? That in 3 to 4 weeks, you file it. Then 8 to 12 months, you decide where you want to go. 31 months, you again think about how the prosecution is going. Look at your patent asset, and then keep building around it, right? Trademark process, very simple. In a week's time, you can get it filed. Lashman Das asking about PPH. Yes, there are. I don't want to deviate, but yes, there is PPH, which helps different countries to have grant each other's examined patent. There are some countries which have that, but yes, I mean, again, that's something which you need to strategize in view of your business, right? So very important. Look at the business, then look at the IP, right? So if you are not going in China anytime soon, there is no point filing in China unless there is some other strategic reason you want to file there, right? Again, this is a very, very quick trademark filing process. In 1 week, you can get it filed. India is pretty fast. I think India trademark system is now even faster than anywhere in the world. I really congratulate Indian Trademark Office for that. We are getting within 15 to 30 days initial examination report or even acceptance of the trademark. So typically it used to be 12 months. So that's what it is. Dhananjay has a question: specific name for business or project or endeavor, can we be trademark or file? Yes. So again, Dhananjay, important that you understand how it is adding value to your business. Is it unique and is it adding value to your business? If it is doing both, it is important that you can file a trademark around your business as well as your small part of it as well. Depends on how it is adding value to your entire process. But the answer is yes, you can file for business as well as project or even endeavors. A lot of people file on their taglines as well. They file on a smaller things as well, right? Okay. Next, then it is design filing. Design filing, very, very in India, Pretty much very similar to trademark, very fast process. In a 1 week you can get it filed. In this also 6 months you have to decide if you want to take it to global platforms, or use certain global treaties to extend it to different countries. In 12 months try to follow up, make sure that you are getting a grant. 10 to 15 is an average tenure of a design protection, right? So that's about design. I hope it is making sense. Any specific question on the process of patent, trademark, and designs? It will help me also to move to the next of the lodestar, which is defend. Any questions so far? I'll take a pause for 15 seconds. In case you have any questions on the process part, happy to take it. Okay. All right. Okay. So in the lodestar, we have covered a lot. Now it's D, right? In the load, we have covered a lot. Now it is about D, which is defend. Now, in the process of value uniqueness identification, make sure that you have multiple ways that you are protecting it. Don't only rely on only one patent, one trademark. Think about how you are building your entire asset class. Okay, so Dr. Sadanand has asked, can mini project be patented? Dr. Raghu has asked, can submitted reply FER, can we expect response from the examiner? Okay, so Dr. Sadanand, as long as your project is technical in nature, has novelty, and these things, you can do it. The second question was around FERs. Typically, it depends. Sometimes 3 months to 6 months, sometimes 2 years, depending on how the queue is. Can we have name in the design? Can we have a name? No. In the design registration, it has to be something which is physical. So you can't have name as design registration. You can have trademark for your names. What is design patent? Design patent is something for protecting which is ornamental in nature and something you can touch and feel. Okay, what is meant by patent family? Okay, it's not the scope of the patent, but still scope of my talk. But patent family is basically if you file your patent in 5 different countries, it becomes one family, right? So that's about patent family. Okay, so we are talking about defend. So keep thinking about what are the different uniqueness and build a lot of different kind of things. Don't only rely on patent. Think about copyrights, think about design, think about trademarks, right? So so it is very important to defend from different angles, right? Okay. Mr. Das has, where should patent be filed? Any specific website, or it is done offline? So Arang, I recommend to find an agent or attorney to do it. It is filed with Indian Patent Office. Depending on your address, there are 4 or 5 offices which accepts your trademark, which accepts your patent. So that's about that question, right? Okay, next. So cost, right? It's very important. I know in India, we want everything in cheap, right? We want everything which is, who will give me the lowest price, right? But very important to understand in the entire framework, important to understand cost effective versus cheap. Don't go for cheap, go for cost effective. Save cost, no problem, but don't throw away your ideas, your IPs, just because you wanted to sort of, you want to save some money, right? Have the investment mindset versus the cost mindset. You make sure that you have the cost, don't have the cost mindset when you are doing this. Otherwise, it will be very hard to do it, right? One thumb rule for that, always ensure that your 10% of your investment of whatever you have produced should go in the prevention of the business risk, right? And how do you see the value of your business, right? I mean, if you see your value of the business, a lot of people talk about, my brand is going to worth crores of rupees in 5 years, but yet they want to save 500 rupees on a trademark filing and then they regret later, right? So don't do it. If you are building a business, have an investment mindset, right? Jyoti asked, is there a government funding for filing a patent? Yes, there are some funding available for startups. Some state government has it. I have a gift for a lot of you. Which is I'm going to give in the end of the presentation. So stick here. I'll give you the way to get that gift, right? Okay. So next on the lodestar is watch. Keep watching. Don't really just file, sit down, and then think that okay, my job is done. Don't do that. It's important that keep watching where the market is going, where your competition is going. It's very, very important. It is not something that you register and then you sleep. It's important that you keep watching where the market is moving, where things are moving ahead. What is it that So I think that's something which is very, very important, that you keep a watch on that. Then react. Again, in the last of lodestar, it's react as well, right? Keep the business focus, keep adapting to the change. It should not be that you just think about, okay, I saw something but I'll not react. If you see someone copying your technology or using similar trademarks, go ahead and enforce as well. Try to stop them, otherwise it will become a problem for you later, right? So this is the framework, right? I hope the framework made sense. It was useful for you. If it was useful, just type in useful so that I know that this framework was something which was useful, which is really something which you are going and using it for your day-to-day IP evaluations. Was it useful? Type in useful if you found it useful. Yeah. Okay. Next. Now, very important day-to-day notions that people carry, right? And it comes very, very common when I had a lot of discussions with academics and with a lot of startups, with a lot of students as well, right? So I want to sort of also talk about that very, very briefly. There is nothing, I have already said, there is nothing called global and global trademark. These are territorial in nature. If you have a patent in India, it means you have in India, right? You don't have in US, right? There is nothing called as global patent, global trademark. You have to select those countries. You have to go there. If you want a global patent, file in separate one, hundreds of countries which are there on the planet, right? There is nothing called as global patent or trademark, right? You have to go and do it. If you are doing a business based on brand, you need protection because people will copy you. There will be a lot of times, a lot of people say we are very small business, we don't need it. Even now, Amazon forces you to have a trademark in order to list on their website, right? So very, very important that you go ahead and do and protect your brand, right? If you're developing new technology, you need a protection. Again, a lot of people, it's a very common thing. I've done this small change. Again, think about it. Think about the business value of it, right? I've already covered business. There's nothing as trademark. International brand registration is not very expensive. Sometimes people think it's going to cost me lakhs of rupees. No. If you plan it properly and there is a business case around it, you can go ahead and do that international brand registration at lower cost by using like Madrid, which is a method that you can use to file in a lot of countries in a very short and very cost effective manner, right? Lawsuits and damages are not rare in India. It's very common. So if you think about India mein to this is like common, everybody copies. No, this is not. People do get serious notices. Businesses shut down with this, right? And IPR does play a very, very important Christian, like I said, there is patents is a territorial right. If you register a patent in India, it's only valid in India. You can only protect in India. It will not work in abroad, right? So it's a very territorial in nature, right? You need an IP strategy. Refer this Lodestar framework. That is the first step towards building an IPR strategy. Of course, you need professionals to help you if you are scaling your business about IP strategy. But important that have IP strategy 101 using the framework that I've taught. Right. I hope that was useful for you. Right. Now we have 15 minutes. I will share few more slides, then we'll go to the last section of it. Some must remember some can mobile application concept before implemented be patented? Mr. Mohammed Saad, if your application is again solving a technical problem, you can before implementation, but again you have to really define what is the technical problem you're solving. Not using something known and putting it together does not qualify it for patent, right? So important that you evaluate what technical problem that you are solving. As I said, follow the Lodestar question that I've shared in the earlier part of the presentation. That will really help you answer this question for yourself, right? Okay. Now, very, very important tips that you must remember. File patent for long-term strategic benefit. Trademark designs are very quick, right? They get very quick grants and stuff. So it's very, very important that you have a combination of these strategies. You also have copyright, which is very, very quickly granted and so forth, right? As I said, Indian Patent Office has some options. In a lot of countries have options to expedite your patent examination process. UK has it, India has it, a lot of countries has it. You can do that. Uma, I'll answer this question after this slide. Again, very important, as I said, cost effective versus cheap. Very important to use this, that you work with the attorney and plan your claims, because that is what is heart of your patent. Don't really save cost on that, right? Take a long-term view than a short-term view, right? Focus on the IP, which is critical for your business. Like I said, value and uniqueness, right? Sometimes some IP can also be kept secret, right? And in case you are very early in your business idea, you are talking to investors, you are going public, file a provisional application as well. There's no harm doing that, right? There was a question around, can we do an app for copyright or patent? So code can be copyrighted. Patent is again has to be evaluated whether it is solving a technical problem, right? So that is something which Uma, you need to look at. Does publishing research paper in a good journal on a new technology gives? No. If you publish your research paper, it makes a public knowledge. Even if you are filing a patent after publishing your research paper, you have really foregone your rights to file a patent around that, right? Which one is suitable for art, illustration, patent, or copyright? Copyright for art and illustration. Again, refer back to my presentation where I talked about creative arts, how it is protected. Okay, next, where I want to sort of you to think about is, a lot of you are students as well. I can see that, right? And a lot of you have always been relying on a lot of research articles, right? Now it is time that you go ahead, use Google Patents, use a lot of open tools to look for patents in whatever research that you are doing, right? Make sure that is part of your research review as well. Don't really only look at the journals which are published out there, right? A patent is the wealth of knowledge. It will help you in doing this better. You will be able to have better research questions, research targets as well, right? Again, IP awareness in the research design itself. Don't really be in that patent is the reality. Government is pushing, universities are pushing it for, right? Again, when you are thinking about technology, link it with the real world, right? Jyoti, how to find an authenticity of patent agent? Of course, without any sales pitch, I mean, we'll be happy to help. But there are a lot of companies out there, right? Check for their credibility, check for their profiles, work with a company rather than a single agent, and work with them. A lot of agents are out there who have good credibility, who do good job on the patents, right? So there are a lot of agencies who help there. Of course, you can go out on LinkedIn or Google and find those people, right? Okay, differentiate between business idea and technical improvement. Like I said, again, separate between business and the technical problem, right? And you know not every improvement counts, right? Don't worry about, hey, I have done this small improvement, right? It is also subject to patent, right? A chair may be invented, but a chair with a armrest may be invented by you, right? The armrest is your invention. Sometimes you have to, it's okay to have armrest as a patent as well, right? So always think about this, that, hey, I could be very small improvement, but there is improvement, right? So you can always go for a patent around it, right? Yeah, like Dr. Paresh said, Paresh ji is one of our great friends, and he as he listed that there are patent agents listed on the website, so you can go ahead and also do that, right? Um, Again, like one question, publish versus patent. Make sure that you file a patent before you publish, right? Don't really just publish it, for having that in your resume, right? If you feel there is a value of your technology, whatever you have done, there is a business value to it, file a patent, right? There are a lot of universities now supported. There are a lot of incubators who support these business initiatives if you have a unique technology, right? And as I said, focus on building this unique technologies, which is has a real world application. I think after my session, Mr. Praj is going to talk about this a lot of in detail, and I really recommend people who are here to not to miss that session at any cost, because that's going to be a very, very informative session. All right. So now we are almost there. Now, who wants a free gift? Now, everybody wants a free thing. So whosoever wants a free gift, I have a small free gift after the end. So everybody who wants this, type in free in the chat. So I'll, slide my next window so you can claim your free gift, right? Mr. Panwar, the younger people are more useful. Thank you so much. Dinkar wants, okay, now things are getting interesting, right? All right, so we have done this compilation of entire questions that a lot of people you have asked today. All the myths, all the things that I've talked about. It is compiled in a very short ebook. If you like this ebook, here are the steps. Either drop a WhatsApp message on this number. We will send you the book by WhatsApp. If you want book on email, just write hi on this email called ebook@arcticinvent.com. We will send you this book, which you can use, which you can distribute, which is absolutely free, which covers almost all the answers which a lot of people you have asked around. Is there a government scheme? Is there something I can do to protect it? And then, of course, if somebody wants to talk to me, discuss some ideas, they have some patent ideas, they want to do something around it, book, happy to get on a call for 15 minutes, drop an email on my email address with the context so that I be prepared for the call, and book a slot. I'll be happy to talk to you about that, about your invention or patents and so forth, right? Then, if you want to build a career in IP, I have done a previous webinar with Rahul. You can find that on this YouTube link, or you can just search on YouTube how to build career in IP and my name. You will probably find that video. A lot of students who wants to build their career in IP as an area, they can really watch that video. For whosoever you feel that book is useful for you, please drop an email, so that, because we don't know your email addresses, a lot of people are here, we don't know everyone's email address, and since all the attendee details is with Rahul, I would want you to please drop us an email on this email address, and we'll be happy to send you this book, right? Great. So that is all I had for today, but before I hand over to Praj, I also want to answer some questions, because we have 5 minutes, so we can have 2 minutes for the questions. But very important that I want to talk about the next session, Praj, is that, look, I mean, we got only one planet to live, right? It's not going to happen anytime soon that we are sitting in Mars and we are calling Uber from there, right? So if you are a business which is saving our planet, which is solving any issues which is related to environment, you need to attend the next session, right? And if you are not thinking in that area, that you are not building a technology which is saving our planet, go ahead and do the next session. Don't miss this session with Praj, because he's going to talk about a lot of different things which is going to open your eyes around the clean tech space, how it is going to change our world, right? So make sure you stick around with the link. Don't go anywhere. Dr. Sundarasan, I would request you to please drop an email on this email. I cannot possibly, tag that email while I'm talking. So it's a request for everyone to, again, on this slide, to drop us an email or a WhatsApp. We'll be happy to help you with any IP queries or anything which you have related to IP, right? So that's all with me. Any questions? We are almost on time. Rahul, I hope everybody enjoyed the session. I enjoyed this session a lot. Thank you for all the participants for being so much involved in the conversation. I loved answering your questions, and I hope to see you in the next webinar with Rahul, or we will keep organizing these kind of webinars. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day forward. Rahul, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Govind. It was a real pleasure. So thank you, folks. If you have not got the contact information of Mr. Govind Kedia, please refer to the description of the YouTube video. There's also a phone number where you can send a WhatsApp message to claim your free ebook. It's a manual that will help you navigate lots of questions around IPR, which are very typical that people have. So excellent. It's been a great crowd. We have about 200 live people who are watching. Actually, we got close to even 1,800 registrations for this particular. So I'm sure that even if people haven't watched it live right now, there will be 1,800 views or more after the weekend is over, because people sometimes are watching in their own time. So okay. Then what's the approximate? Govind, do you want to take a crack at?
Sure. So I think Praj, I think is going to talk about clean tech, very exciting area. So Praj, I think over to you. All yours, the deck, and very brief introduction. Praj, I know Praj from because we've been working together with our Basque as entity, and he runs Cleantech, which is specializing in clean tech area and helps a lot of clean tech businesses, right? So Praj is dual, is an Indian in UK qualified European attorney. So he brings a lot of global perspective today about clean tech, right? So Praj, I think over to you. You can please go ahead and share your screen and take it forward with it, right? Rahul, over to you as well.
Thank you, Govind. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks a lot, Govind, for the kind introduction. Rahul, were you about to say something?
No. The stage is yours. Just in your own time. Just feel free to carry on. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Govind, for the kind introduction, and also, your session has acted as a great primer, actually, for my session. And good evening to you all on this session on innovation, IP, and collaboration in clean tech. Let me just share my screen with you guys. Right. I hope you guys can see my screen. Any comments to confirm?
Yes. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess there's a bit of a time lag, but yeah, I think you guys can see my screen. Right, so my name is Prajwal. I'm a European patent attorney and the founder and director of Cleantech, which is a social enterprise helping clean and green technologies to commercialize and and attain commercial success. My session today is introduce this fascinating world of clean technology, clean and green innovations, telling why it is important, and if you're not already thinking about it, you should, and also telling you where innovation and IP can play a major role in clean and green innovations. Okay, as with Govind's session, and if you have any questions, you can just put in the chat. If I get an opportunity, I will try to answer and take some of those questions during my presentation. Otherwise, I'll try to take most of those questions, after my presentation ends. Okay. Right. So, what is clean tech? So it's a buzzword these days, and everyone is talking about clean tech, clean technology, green and clean world. So, but what all does it cover? A lot of people, when they hear the word clean tech, they just think of renewable energy. They just think of wind energy, solar energy, tidal energy, hydro energy. So, of course, that is part of clean tech. Renewable energy definitely forms a major area of clean tech. But what else is there, right? Clean transportation. Now, when I mention clean transportation, I'm pretty sure most of you must be thinking Tesla, electric cars. And a lot of people, when they think of clean transport, all they think is, maybe electric cars, electric bikes. But there's so much more to clean transportation than just your electric cars and bikes. Think about fuel cell powered buses. Think about biofuel powered airplanes. Think about electric trains. So the possibilities are endless there in clean transportation space. And as we speak, there are actually fuel cell trains running in Scotland, in Glasgow. So they are running this experimental train, which actually will be, carrying passengers during COP26, and we'll come to that later. So be it your personal vehicle space or be it your mass transportation, clean tech is playing a major role there. Next is your sustainable agriculture. So especially India, it's a still heavily agriculture dependent country. I presume a large proportion of population still works in agriculture. So what if we can find more sustainable ways of farming? What if we can make lives better both for farmers but also for the consumers, just because you are producing a higher yield using the methods which are more sustainable. It's helping the environment, it's preserving the nutrients of the soil, and also at the same time it is creating higher yield. So that will be a game changer. Recycling and waste management, again, a very, very important area. And unfortunately, it's an area which I do not really think gathers much attention. Well, maybe it just doesn't look as cool and sexy than talking about Tesla fuels, electric cars or fuel cell cars and stuff like that. But then having said this, plastic, a major issue. I mean, be it your plastic packaging or be it your face mask, which have plastic all over in it. So recycling, waste management, clearly a very, very important area of clean tech. Be it about finding other alternatives to plastic, be it finding biodegradable solutions for packaging, or be it even generating energy from waste. So all of those areas come under recycling and waste management. Next is carbon capture and air filtration. So this is an interesting one. So I'm not sure how many of you have heard of direct carbon capture technologies. So all of the other technologies we have talked about so far, that's all to do with trying to reduce the carbon emissions. But what to do with carbon which is already there in the atmosphere? Is there a way to tackle that? Is there a way somehow you can suck that carbon back in? Just take some carbon dioxide back from the environment. And indeed, you can do that. So there is that technology available right now, still in really nascent stage. But I can think of this company called Climeworks. So they're based in Switzerland. So they do exactly that. They've come up with this technology which can actually capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And there are some other big companies which are actually working on that solution. Now, of course, we are in here for a long run. So it's not that you can imagine in next 10 years we'll be able to capture all the carbon dioxide and we'll be living in a net zero world. That's least likely to happen. Actually, that's impossible to happen. So it's a combined effort of all of these technologies which will really make that happen. But direct carbon capture will play a major role there. Air filtration or pollution control. Well, again, I presume in Delhi and a lot of places, well, a lot of cities in India, especially Delhi, they suffer with major pollution, mostly in the winter months. So so you have to think about the ways that you can clean air. So a lot of innovative technology coming in air filtration. Well, a lot of interesting technology coming from India itself. So I'm aware of a couple of companies which are trying to kind of install this pollution control towers and stuff like that. So these are the kind of things, again, which are making our environment cleaner, so that the planet thrives, but also we thrive. Because of course, when you are living in that polluted environment, well, there was this study where they're saying, on an average, Delhiites are losing 10 years of their life, just because of air pollution. So you can imagine, what a big disaster it is. So we do need more innovations in this sector so that we can tackle this big menace. What else is there? Simple one. Anything good for our planet. So yeah. So anything which is playing a major role in, well, even a minor role in contributing to environmental benefits, and anything which is doing good for our planet, good for its people. So I would say anything under the sun which is making our planet smile is clean tech. Okay. Any questions so far? So I'm just reading the comments here. Right, okay, so I'll go on to the next slide. So there is a global push for clean tech. So, I'm sure you all must be aware of the famous Paris Agreement. So, a lot of companies came together in Paris in December 2015, and they signed this Paris Climate Agreement. And what it essentially said was that we must try to limit our global temperature to 1.5 degrees. And actually, by the turn of the century, definitely put it under 2 degrees, because that will be absolutely disaster for our planet, and maybe it will just make it not livable anymore. So yeah, so that was what was agreed in Paris Agreement. But since then, it's been more than 5 years, 6 years. Well, sadly, not much has happened. There have been a lot of promises. A lot of countries are saying we'll do this, we'll do that. But honestly, the ground reality is not much has happened. I don't know how many of you are aware of Greta Thunberg, the famous young climate activist from Sweden. So, she is very vocal about the lack of actions from governments. So yeah, so the point here is, lot is said, lot promises have been made, but not much has been done. In the same year, United Nations came up with their Sustainable Development Goals. So they came up with this plan of 17 actions which governments around the world must take to make our world more equal, free from poverty, and of course fit to live in the world. Now, specifically, if you look at these 17 goals, they do not really talk about clean tech as such. But having said this, pretty much most of these goals are somehow directly or indirectly related to clean technology. So I'll give you an example. Goal 7 is to do with providing affordable and clean energy, right? So how do you do that if you do not have technological innovations? So of course, it's all underpinned by clean tech. Another one, which is your number 11, which is to do with sustainable cities and infrastructure and communities. So again, if you do not have technology which can create those sustainable communities, how are you going to do that? So, so these sustainable development goals are very much, at the heart of clean tech. So, most of the clean tech companies do have these sustainable goals on their agenda, and they're extremely, extremely useful. Sorry, just a question there. Anything which is good for the planet, could you point out some? Question from Jyoti. Yes, of course. So say, think of AI and blockchain. You would not necessarily think of artificial intelligence or blockchain as a clean tech solution, but actually you can use AI and blockchain to create more energy efficient systems. You would be able to use them for kind of, creating an infrastructure wherein people can share their ideas. You can use it for powering communities, so those sorts of things. You can create a very beneficial infrastructure using technologies like, AI, 5G, blockchain. So all of those things, well, again, the kind of technologies which you would not immediately think of as clean tech technologies, but these technologies can be enablers for clean tech. So a lot of the clean technology areas can be hugely benefited from these other technologies. So yeah, so I would rate them as areas which are still good for the planet. Yeah. Right. So coming back to my presentation, this year later in Glasgow, UK, we are having COP26, which is this other very big climate change conference. In a lot of respects, COP26 would be a major game changer, or at least that's what everyone is saying, because we are still reeling under the pressure of pandemic, and a lot of world leaders would be meeting together, and as they all say, we are trying to build better from this pandemic. So I think a lot of major decisions and actions will be committed to in COP26. We all are looking at this COP26 conference, and as opposed to Paris Agreement, where a lot of good things were said, but not much happened. I think COP26 is more for action rather than just plan. So I think, yeah, COP26 is there to watch. You have to watch out for it and just see, how countries, when a lot of the countries have signed up for net zero pledge for 2050. But I would suspect that a lot of countries may want to bring it forward, and I think especially Scandinavian countries, countries like Denmark, Sweden, they may want to get to carbon neutrality by, I don't know, 2035, 2040. We'll talk about this a bit later. Sorry, there's another question from Jyoti who says, what is blockchain? So sorry, that's outside the remit of this presentation. I'll briefly explain. I'm sure you must have heard of Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin technology is driven by blockchain. So blockchain is essentially a central ledger, which is kind of a decentralized platform on which you can, share smart contracts, mint these Bitcoins and stuff. But, people just think of Bitcoin as a or blockchain as a platform to exchange digital, cryptocurrencies. But there is much more to blockchain than just cryptocurrencies. It is essentially a decentralized platform where you can exchange information, do a lot of clever things in a very secure and decentralized way. Okay. So if we talk in terms of numbers in clean tech, so clean tech market is expected to reach $4 trillion within this decade. Now, to put this into perspective, if I'm not wrong, the current GDP of India is just under $3 trillion. So you can just see what massive opportunity clean tech sector provides, not just in terms of helping the planet, but also in terms of making money. So it's we live in a capitalist world. So if you are trying to do things for good, but trust me, if it's not making money for people, and if it's not profitable, things go down the drain. But clearly, clean tech is not that area. This is an area where there is a lot of commercial opportunity. Okay. Well, we talk in terms of patents and IP filing. So if you talk of environmental technologies in the past decade, it has grown by 10%. So patents in this technology space has grown over 10% rate. Now, again, to put things into perspective, if you take an average of all technologies, all technologies in general, they grew by a rate of roughly 5%. So that means, clean tech is growing at double the rate of all other technologies. And again, I would say in next 10 years, you might just see this growth, getting doubled or even treble. So again, a huge potential in this space there. In terms of investments, $35 billion were invested in clean tech in 2019. And again, I think in the next decade, we will see this factor getting multiplied by, I don't know, a factor of 10, factor of 100, you name it, and it will be there. Okay. If you look at the patent filing trend in renewables, and now bear in mind, this does not represent all the patent filings in clean tech, but only the renewables. Of course, the patent filing chart will look different for different technology areas, but because renewables is one of the big areas of clean tech, so we just use that as an example. So if you see from 2010 to 2013, there was a huge push in renewable filing around the world. And then from 2014 to 2016 onwards, there was a dip. Now, a lot of people are dead in renewables. Well, actually, far from it. So, just to make you understand how innovation cycle works is, when any new technology is coming up, a lot of time and effort is spent in R&D. And that's the time when you are filing a lot of patents and patent applications are being filed. So really this period between 2010 and 2013 is representing that R&D phase. And then it moves towards commercialization. So when companies move towards commercialization, what they do is patent filing goes down because, of course, they're focusing on making the technology happen, right? So that's the time when patent filing essentially will go down for a bit because, of course, they're focusing on commercializing, bringing those products to the market. But then again, you will see the trend from 2016 onwards, it's on the upward trend. So I won't be surprised, bearing 2020, well, of course, we don't have numbers for 2020 yet because there is a bit of a time lag in patent publication, 2020, 2021, we will see. Maybe because of pandemic, we might see a slight dip, but my instinct says, and from my experience, I would say in next 4 to 5 years, you will again see this graph going high. And I would say it would exponentially rise in next 4 to 5 years. And again, it will move to a commercialization phase. So there will be a bit of cycles of R&D and commercialization. So you will see this sort of, peaks and troughs in the graph. And here up, and we are just taking an example of renewables. But I would say the other sectors of clean tech as well might be following kind of a similar pattern. Yeah. Right. So if we look at top filing countries in renewable space, well, perhaps unsurprisingly, more than 50% of those patents were originating from US or Japan, and Japan taking the lead there, followed by Germany, South Korea, China, and Denmark. Now, the interesting thing to notice there is we only see all the advanced economies being represented on this chart. We do not see India, we do not see Brazil, we do not see Russia, we do not really see any emerging economies there, which is perhaps not that surprising. Still IP is relatively nascent stage in emerging economies. But having said this, this chart can dramatically change, because if you actually think of China 10 or 20 years ago, I'm pretty sure that would have not emerged, as one of the key patent filing countries, but that has changed dramatically, as you know. And actually, we're only talking about renewables, but if you combine all areas of clean tech, I'm pretty confident that China might be, if not topmost, then maybe the second largest filer. So, so things can change dramatically, but it's all driven by government policies, investors, and interest from a lot of other, companies in those countries who are investing in clean tech space or not. So again, I would love to see, India appearing on such charts in the next 5 years, 10 years. But, so we have to just watch out this space. Okay. Moving forward, so an interesting list of top environmental performers. So this is a list, was compiled by the Environmental Performance Index Institution in 2020. So they came up with the environmental score for countries around the world. And according to that, Denmark performed the best. So they are the most environmental friendly, most sustainable country on the planet, followed by Luxembourg, Switzerland, United Kingdom, and France. But of course, you will see a lot of these countries are obviously very developed, but small. But then, United Kingdom, France, Germany, they're obviously major economies. Well, I'm sure you all must have noticed why there are only European nations there. Can someone explain? And also, well, again, I'm just going back to my previous slide. There we see most of the patents were filed by Japan and US. Why don't we see Japan and US on this list? Any thoughts? I'll just pause here for a few seconds and just see if anyone wants to type anything in the comment. Right? I think it might be a difficult question. Right, so I can explain this in my next slide. Okay, so let's just move to the next slide. So next slide is about clean tech collaboration and putting it in global context. Now we will understand this by looking at some radar charts drawn by Global Clean Tech Innovation Index in 2017. Having said this, there is a comment by Nikhil saying Japan is shutting its nuclear power plants. Well, nuclear power plants are not the only clean tech source, and well, it may partially explain it that what they're doing may not be right. But having said this, they had a lot of nuclear disasters, and I do understand, why they're shutting their nuclear plants. But the answer would actually be in this Cleantech Innovation Index. Just looking at another comment from Dhananjay. Damages suffered in World War II, lowest natural resources, and desire to bounce back gracefully. Japan, maybe I think that's a good one. And innovation for industry, maybe because many non-renewable energy resource very low in European country. Well, a lot of good comments coming there, but let me just explain you this in terms of kind of infrastructure and a lot of innovation drivers in various countries. Okay. So first, let's just talk about some advanced economies. So looking at United Kingdom and US, if you see their radar chart is looking very, very similar. And just to explain you, this radar diagram. So here we are plotting four main parameters on which are kind of driving clean tech innovation. So first is general innovation drivers. So basically, how is the general innovation space in that country? Next is clean tech specific innovation drivers. So how clean tech specifically, is in their innovation framework. Then looking at emerging clean tech innovation. So how much breakthrough research in clean tech space is happening in those countries? And then, and very importantly, how much is commercialized clean tech innovation happening in those countries? As you would expect from countries like US and UK, so they are performing above average, above world average on pretty much all these parameters. But interestingly, when you look at emerging clean tech innovation, they are far beyond, the average. So they are doing extremely well on emerging clean tech innovation parameter. So that means a lot of new breakthroughs in clean tech is coming from these countries. There are loads of interesting universities, startups, SMEs, which are coming up with innovative clean and green technologies. So for that reason, and of course, they are driving the patent numbers as well, and that kind of explains why the US patent numbers are really high. Okay. Next, let's look at Denmark, which obviously performed the best in the environmental performance. Now, their radar charts looks very interesting and very different from UK and US. If you see, their commercialized clean tech innovation scores very, very highly. So what that means is there is a lot of push towards commercializing the clean tech innovation, adopting the clean tech innovation. So it's not just about doing the clean tech innovation and just researching and doing stuff, but it's actually bringing that research to commercialization phase, and that's what matters. And that kind of explains why Denmark is leading the race in sustainability. And also another factor which is extremely crucial is clean tech specific innovation drivers, which is again very high for Denmark. So what Denmark is doing is essentially, their government creates a lot of incentives for companies and investors to invest in clean tech. Government itself, they do a lot of programs around the world, be it creating education. Well, I don't know if you guys know, it's the most bike-friendly, country in the world. Denmark, I think, probably has, I'm not sure entire Denmark, but at least Copenhagen, the capital city, has more bikes than cars. I think probably more bikes than number of people. So, everyone, just travels on their bikes. So there is a lot of interesting public drivers, which is really driving the clean tech innovation in a country like Denmark. Okay. And someone just mentioned here, Denmark is a world-leading energy source in wind energy, which is absolutely true. And well, another country which I can tell is UK. So again, I think apart from Denmark, UK is another big player in wind energy. Okay. So India, so interesting radar chart there. So not surprising that it's kind of below average on most of the parameters. But the interesting thing is when you look at clean tech specific innovation drivers, it's slightly heading ahead of world average there. So what's happening? So it has to do with government policies again. So government is kind of waking up to clean tech challenge, and they know clean tech is important. This is what the world needs, and India cannot lag behind in it. So a lot of government initiatives are happening in India. A lot of public awareness is picking up in India as well. So for that reason, India is performing well on clean tech specific innovation drivers. But of course, there's a long way to go. There are a lot of these other parameters which India needs to catch up on. Now, looking at another very interesting country, China. So what's China doing? So again, not surprisingly, China is pretty much average or slightly above average, on pretty much all the parameters. So it's kind of a very balanced view in China. But again, the clean tech specific innovation drivers are slightly edging ahead of world average, which means again, government policies and investment from private investors. So they are putting in a lot of resources in making clean tech happen. So for that reason, again, the number of patents and stuff would also be going high in China. And because they right now are in a very, very balanced state, it will be very interesting to see how China grows this radar chart in the next 5 years, 10 years. So I would say just the way China works, the commercialized clean tech innovation would happen at a much rapid pace than a lot of other countries around the world. Now, you must be thinking, okay, this sounds great. So how we're talking about in terms of collaboration here? So the interesting thing is when you're talking about collaboration, it's not just collaboration between companies, it's also collaboration between countries. So say there is this company in United Kingdom which has this brilliant technology to deal with air pollution, right? And then India obviously has a dire need to control air pollution, and there is a lot of government push to control it. So why not India and United Kingdom? They work together. One company in India, one company in United Kingdom. They're working together. The technology is coming from the UK. The commercialization and application is happening in India, and it's a win-win situation because obviously both countries get mutually benefited from one another. Then again, Denmark can teach the world how to really commercialize their clean tech innovation. They can teach countries even like United States, which are really good at bringing breakthrough innovations, but maybe they're not that good at commercializing that clean tech innovation, and then they can learn lessons from Denmark. So basically this radar diagram just really shows a brief kind of overview how different countries around the world can really collaborate in the clean tech space by exchanging knowledge, exchanging information, and really exchanging the skills, where they have their forte. Okay. Right, so next slide is about protecting versus sharing innovations. So here, I'm kind of not really deviating from what Govind said, but actually really building upon that. So Govind, his session was more about protecting your innovation, and of course, by filing patents, registering trademarks and stuff, you're obviously protecting your innovation. But there has to be a fine balance between protecting and sharing. So when you talk about, the pros and cons, so think about why do you want to protect your IP? First and foremost, it's kind of a reward for innovation. Of course, you have done your hard work, you have researched, and you need some reward for innovation. So you get a patent for 20 years. You're getting a monopoly in that space, and you're protecting your your IP there. And obviously, it creates a strong position for you in the market. You can sell your products at more competitive prices, and you can attract more customers, more partners. So of course, it makes a lot of sense to protect. Why do you want to share then? Well, first and foremost reason, when you share, you actually give yourself an opportunity to develop your innovation further. So when you are sharing, and actually that's the whole idea of patent system itself. The reason that you share the government asks you to publicize your patent application is because they do want research and development to continue further. So when you share your innovation, you're actually trying to find ways to improve your product or service further, right? And then it also helps you commercialize your technology because you cannot really do everything yourself. Maybe you're good at your research and innovation, but maybe you're not good at commercializing or manufacturing the technology for commercialization. So of course you need to share to do that. And especially true for clean tech, you have to share to work together for the planet. So especially in the clean tech sector, we are not in the race to compete. We are here to cooperate. I always use the word called competition. So competition is kind of amalgamation of competition and cooperation. So in the clean tech space, we are all here to compete, wherein you are competing because of course, you have to make business sense. We also cooperating with one another for the sake of our planet. So I would say, in the clean tech space, the balance is slightly shifting towards sharing than protecting. Having said this, again, I'll come to that in my later slides. It's still very important to protect. It's not that, oh yeah, you will just share everything and you do not need to protect. Now, that will be the biggest mistake you will make, right? So I'm just taking a question here. It says, which country is least bureaucratic and planet friendly globally? Well, I think the answer to that lies in the environmental index itself. So, I may have to say it has to be Denmark. and I would say most of the Nordic nations, be Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Finland. If you read at kind of least corruption index, so these are the countries which rate highly, um, on all of those indexes. So I think we all have to learn a lot from these Scandinavian countries. So they definitely know a better way of living, and there's not a lot to learn from them. Okay. Moving on to the next slide. Let me introduce you to open innovation. I'm sure you all must have heard of this term. Again, one of the buzzwords these days, open innovation. So essentially, what is open innovation? So open innovation is essentially a framework wherein you do not try to do everything in-house. You do not try to do everything within your own company or within your own community, but you actually bring in external people and innovate together with them. So a lot of information exchange is happening here. So the idea is, you are receiving information from outside, but you're also sending information outside, and you're all working collaboratively to come up with innovative solutions. So that's the basic idea behind open innovation. Now, someone might ask, why not do it internally? Why do you even have to share your innovations? Why not just hire brilliant people and do it externally? Because it's always a risk when you are bringing in external people. So some of the plausible reasons why you should, or you could not do it internally. Well, foremost, not necessarily all the smart people would be working for your company. Think of Google. Do you think all smart people work for Google? Or do you think all smart people work for Microsoft? Well, certainly not. There are people who are, maybe there are independent inventors who do not even want to work for a company, and they're just happy doing their own space. But they may know more than someone at Google would know, right? So you have to collaborate with those people, to make your innovations happen. Second is, there will be processes, services, products which are so complex that you cannot do it all by yourself, right? So you do not want to add added complexity to your already complex solution. So you may want to rely on other people who may understand those complexities better than you do. So, well, in that case, makes a lot of sense to to collaborate with those external people. Third one is simple economics. You cannot afford to do everything. So I'll give you an example. Let's take example of vaccines. So most of the vaccines were actually manufactured in universities or research institutions. Take example of AstraZeneca COVID vaccines, which, as I understand, is manufactured by Serum Institute of India here in India. So the research happens at Oxford University. Why is not Oxford doing it? Why is not Oxford selling it? And why do they have to bring in AstraZeneca, or why do they have to bring in Serum Institute of India? As simple as that. They cannot afford to do it themselves. It's simple economics. They're a university. It's not within their remit to manufacture vaccines at large scale. So you have to bring in the external people there. Okay. Trying to do it all means that you may lack focus. Again, I think I'll give example of these vaccine companies again. If they try to do everything by themselves, if they're trying to manufacture, they're trying to work out logistics, they're trying to work out supply chain, well, they will just lose the track and they will not be innovating. They can't focus on their research and innovation. So that's the reason you must work as a team with external parties. So you can just focus on the areas which you are strong at, and let other people handle other areas. And the last one, but not the least one, is a lot of time companies try to do things on their own, but then sooner or later they realize they're not succeeding. Well, again, they may not be succeeding because of all the factors which I explained before. So again, at that point, they might just say, well, better that we take help from outside. But I would say a sensible company, a sensible business would not even want to reach that stage. You have to identify early on, is there a possibility, or is there kind of an incentive in adopting an open innovation model before you reach that stage wherein you have a lot of failed attempts, and then you realize, oh well, we are losing at it, we need external people. Okay. So who would be your collaboration partners? So it's not necessarily that you are collaborating with just another company. There are loads of parties which can involve and help you with this open innovation collaboration process. Okay, so independent inventors, I previously mentioned there would be people who are working independently. Could be anywhere in the world. There might be, a mad scientist working in his office, in some random city in the world. So, they could be your collaboration partners. Consultants, so of course, external consultants, people from other companies who are specialized in what they do. So they could be your partners. Spin-outs. So spin-outs are essentially companies which are coming from research universities. So because they are kind of early on research companies coming out from universities, they have got a lot of inside knowledge of a particular technology area because they're coming from research background. So they can be a very useful collaboration partners, especially if your project is such which is research intensive. Okay. Your suppliers, you might just think, oh, well, there's the suppliers, but actually your suppliers may be doing something or supplying you a component which you think cannot be improved further. But actually talk to your suppliers. Maybe there is a better way of doing it. Maybe you're interested in a compound in manufacturing your product, and you think, well, this is the only way this can be done. But no, talk to your supplier. Maybe there's a better solution to your existing compound, and the supplier would have it. So again, supplier can be a major collaboration partner. Your competitors, again, coming to my word of competition, especially in clean tech space, you have to work with the competitors sometimes. If you are working in, okay, let me give you an example for solar company, right? So say you're a solar company and you do solar panels, and there is another competitor which they're also doing solar panels, but maybe they have come up with a clever solution of making your solar panels a bit more energy efficient. Now, would you not want to work with them to kind of either learn the technology or license the technology from them? Because it would be a win-win situation. Not that they would eat into your market, but then if you work together, maybe that competitor is not working in the same market. Maybe your competitor is there, I don't know, in Indonesia, and your market is India, and they don't really have much interest in selling in India. Well, by all means, they would be willing to work with you. So do not rule out your competitors because they could be a really great source of collaboration. Your customers, your customers often can provide you really valuable feedback, which can help you innovate further. Your end users. So bear in mind, a lot of people think, oh, well, what's the difference between customers and end users? So there is a major difference. Going back to my example of vaccines. So who are the customers of these vaccine manufacturing companies? Well, you are not going to ceramic students saying, hey, give me a vaccine. No, it's the governments around the world. So they are the customers. But who are the end users? It's us, it's general public. So, so it makes sense for these vaccines companies, they won't be getting any feedback, any useful information from the customers, but actually they will be getting useful feedback from end users. They are their real customers. Okay. Communities. So let me give you an example of communities. So say you're working for a waste management company. Now there might be a community wherein waste is a big problem. Their area is always dirty. People just do not know how to dispose their goods. So this waste management company can work with those communities, really try to understand their pain points, try to understand if they're not disposing it correctly, where are the barriers there? How can you resolve those barriers? What you can do that makes them easier to recycle their products? What you can do to make their life easy? So communities can be your major collaboration partner there. Universities, again, research intensive universities around the world can be a major collaboration partners for you. In these universities, students or research professors, they are working on breakthrough researches. Now the problem is most of those research, well, not most, but a lot of that research never comes out of the university. They might just publish a technical paper and it just goes silent. But then if you are a company and you tap into that research coming out of the university, it can be a game changer. I mean, actually, I'm sure you must all know. Well, sorry that I keep referring to vaccines. Of course, that's the hot topic right now. Oxford University, obviously the research came out from the university, and now it's saving the world. So, universities are major collaboration partners there. SMEs, a lot of small and medium enterprises, again, can be your major collaboration partners in terms of often they work on innovative solutions, but they lack money to commercialize their technology. So they would be more than happy to commercialize with you if you're a big company, because they'll provide you technology, you provide your funding, and again, create a win-win situation there. Your distributors, so similar to suppliers, your distributors can tell you a lot. They are playing a major role in supply chain. So maybe there is something in logistics and supply chain which you're not aware of, but if you work with the distributors, you can find answers to those problems. And last but not the least is public. Public feedback is often one of the biggest source of collaboration. So they always say if a company is listening to general public, that's really a recipe for success. So I would say public is one of your biggest collaboration partner there, and you have to involve them in your innovation process. Right, we'll take a brief pause here, and I'll just look at the questions. And if anyone has a question, I'll wait here for about 30 seconds. So please feel free to ask any questions. All right, there might be a bit of a lag there. I'll go on with my presentation, but yeah, feel free to type your questions in the comment box, and I'll take it when I can. Yeah. Moving on to the next slide. So how do you succeed at open innovation? Of course, there must be a recipe to succeed at open innovation. So what do you need to do? What are the points that you need to bear in mind to succeed at open innovation? Leadership. So of course, you have to lead your open innovation project. So be it mentoring and coaching people who are involved in this open innovation, be it your internal party or be it your external entities. So you have to lead your open innovation project in a way that's making sense to both your internal as well as external entities. Strategy, nothing happens without strategy. So you must strategize beforehand. So even before you launch your open innovation project, you must strategize. You must build a roadmap. You must have like an end target and a process roadmap that how you're going to achieve it, and then what are the points that you need to take care of if you have to succeed in your open innovation project. Scouting. So scouting is more to do with finding the right resources for open innovation. So be it in terms of finding the right collaboration partners, be it in terms of finding different channels for open innovation, or be it just finding in terms of your funding or kind of other resources which will help you succeed in your open innovation. So scouting is definitely really important there. Your internal champions. So internal champions are your supporters within your organization. So people who do believe in open innovation, people who would help you lead this project, people who would be there to control the process, people who are there to really lead the project in terms of of course there cannot be just one leader leading a big project. So you have to make like a lot of sub leaders and team managers and stuff. So these will be your internal champions which will make it happen. So you must be very careful who you are using as your internal champions in open innovation project. Stepping into the shoes of externals, extremely important. So when you are entering in collaboration with an external partner, you can't just think from your own perspective. You can't just think what's there in it for me. You have to also understand what's in there for them. Why are they collaborating with you? So of course, you have to think from perspective of your external collaboration partners. And last but not the least is review mechanism. You have to have review at every point. You cannot just let it loose that, oh, it's open innovation, we'll let it happen and we'll sort out the issues later. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't do that. You must have appropriate review mechanism in place at each step of your open innovation process. Okay. Very important point, integrating IP into OI process. Before I go into this, I'll just take a question from Sahil. So Sahil is saying, what would be the regulations about the patent laws in the foreign countries when a patent is registered in India? As Govind mentioned, patents are territorial right. So, if a patent is registered in India, it's only applicable in India. So if you're doing anything with that patent, well, the regulation or anything that you do with the technology only happens in India. So, a company sitting in United Kingdom and United States, essentially they don't care, because the patent rights are not applicable in their country. It's only applicable in the country where it's registered. Having said this, of course, if there is a company in UK which is interested in this company which has got a patent registered in India, and they think they can kind of commercialize the technology and make money in India, of course, then having that Indian patent is extremely valuable. So, not necessarily, again, it's very important, not necessarily you must have a patent filed in all the countries. No, you have to see which are the countries of your commercial interest. So if you think it is a technology which is only of interest in India, then by all means, you must only file in India. You don't have to file in 10 countries and just waste your money. And of course, that's all form part of your IP strategy. Okay. Someone asked a question, sorry, it's Lakshman. So it says, if it is a PCT application, well, again, PCT application is not a global patent. PCT application is just a mechanism of later filing in multiple countries. So it's kind of a unified system wherein you file, a common application after your first filing, and then it breaks out in different countries, after 30 months. So it's just a mechanism which is giving you extra time and a unifying filing platform, but then eventually you have to break into individual countries to get your patent granted. So a PCT application will not result in a global patent. It will only be resulting in individual patents where you file from your PCT application, if that makes sense. So Ashit just asked, what about the reliability of collaborators? Well, that's where your scouting comes into play, and that's where your review mechanism comes into play. So you cannot just go into open innovation platform without carefully understanding who you are collaborating with. So yeah, you have to be very careful when you're selecting your open innovation partners. Again, I'll explain in this slide about IP. Open does not mean it's free and anyone can do it. No, you have to carefully select and be sure that you are selecting reliable partners. There's another question from Sahil. What if we are planning to export? Will they be able to steal our idea and own it? No. So yeah, they cannot do that, for the fact, if a patent has been granted or published in any country around the world, the same technology or the same invention cannot be patented by some other entity anywhere else. The reason for that is, that particular invention now becomes a prior art for any other applicant in any other part of the world. So if that person, say this other company in the UK, they are trying to steal your idea and file their own patent based on the same technology, they would not be granted that patent, because you've already patented in India and the time has now lapsed and you have not filed it. It's public, it's out in public domain. So their idea is no longer novel. And if it's no longer novel, they cannot get a patent for it. But you said, yeah, they can steal your idea and own it. Well, yeah, they can. Well, because if you have not got a patent in that other country, yes, by all means, they can still, use your idea and manufacture it, and you can't really do much about it for the fact you do not have patent rights in that country. So, for example, in that country, it remains an open playing field. You can't patent it because you have not patented when the time was there, and they can't patent it because you've already patented it in India. So it becomes like a level playing field. Anyone can exploit the technology in a market where it has not been patented. Yeah. There is another question from Chaitan Kumar. Under PCT, one can apply for patent in different countries for protection. Yes, yeah, you can protect in different countries, but again, it will not lead into a global patent. There will still be individual national patents in all of these countries. There's a patent from Rajoshi, so sorry if I mispronounced your name. What if they do not own patent but still use the idea to manufacture? Yes, yeah, they can do that, because you do not have got a patent right in a particular country in the country. So it's a level playing field. You cannot stop them, because bear in mind, patent is often called a negative right, which means it can only stop others from doing something if you have a patent right in that country. So because you do not have patent right we're taking example of UK here. So if you do not have a patent right in UK, you cannot stop them from manufacturing because you do not have a patent right there. Okay. There's another question, says, how to ensure protection of the idea that is not yet patented while looking out for prospective investors and partners? Really good question. So answer to that lies in trade secret. So you have to keep it as a trade secret. And there is a whole, well, actually, it deserves a session in itself. And, Rahul, I think this is a really, really good topic. So, when the time is right, just let me know. I think we do need to do a session on trade secret. So yeah, the answer to this lies in till the time you're exploring opportunities, you absolutely has to keep your idea as a secret. And, you can't just keep it a secret, just saying that, oh, I'm keeping it a secret. That's just not enough. You need to have the right mechanism in place. You need to have right protocols, right policy in place to keep your invention a trade secret till the time you file a patent for it. Okay. Another question from Mohuk says, are there any useful must-have certifications to be an engineer in renewables or green tech, such as LEEDs, CEM, etc.? Well, again, outside the remit of this presentation, but having said this, I'm not really sure about the certifications, but having said this, there are loads of universities which do specialized course in renewable space. Carbon engineering has become one of the most common topic. Carbon credits and carbon business technology, that has become a very common area. Well, I'm not sure what's being taught at Indian universities, but if you look at universities abroad, especially in UK and US, you will see a lot of these useful courses in renewable, and carbon neutrality space. Right, just looking at the time, so let's go back to our presentation. As I said, IP, when you're introducing an OI, open innovation process, you have to still think about intellectual property. Open does not mean that it's open to all, and open clearly does not mean free. It is not an IP free zone. You still have to protect your IP, but then once you've protected it, then you decide who you have to share with. Then you decide if you want to put it at open innovation process or not. But IP protection is still a must, because if you're not protecting your IP at first place, on what basis would you negotiate? On what basis would you control your innovation? On what basis would you have the review mechanism in place? Because nothing is protected, then again, it's again a disastrous recipe. So, you can't do that. So you must still be very careful about your IP processes, protecting your innovation, filing patent, trademarks, IP, and then think of your open innovation. And then you think about which are the entities, which are your IP rights, which you are willing to share, and at what terms. There has to be a clearly defined terms in an open innovation process as well. As I said, it does not mean that it's an IP-free zone. So, but again, IP protection does not mean that you're blocking, it, especially again in clean tech space, it's build, not block. You're building innovation, you're building relationship, you're building collaborations. Even if you're kind of creating a wall of intellectual property, but I would say it's a go-through wall. It's a wall with a door in it. So it's a kind of wall which you are allowing people to enter in, but there is a restriction. So think of it as a wall. Door is your open innovation channel. So you are still creating a wall, which is your IP, and then you're creating a door, which is your open innovation channel. So you're still allowing people to enter, but you cannot allow everyone to enter. The door would be mostly closed, and then you have to choose that who you would allow you to enter. So that's the thing you must bear in mind. Some IP issues that you must consider in open innovation process. First and foremost, you must do your value versus risk analysis. So you have to really see what is the value proposition in involving an open innovation process. Is the value of this open innovation more than the risk? Because of course, any open innovation process would have some risk associated with. There's a risk of IP leakage. There is a risk that someone might just infringe your IP. So there would be some risk involved. But do you think there is more value addition to this open innovation platform than the risk? And are the risks manageable? Well, if it is, then of course, you should go about it. But as I said, you have to do this value versus risk assessment. IP maturity, not necessarily all your collaboration partners would be at the same level of IP maturity. You could be a really IP savvy, very IP mature company, have got all your patents protected, have all the IP agreements in place, your trade secret policy, but you're working with another startup, they just don't know about IP. Maybe for them, IP means internet protocol rather than intellectual property. So there will be kind of a task for you to do a bit of IP awareness and IP education for your collaboration partners. So you have to understand the differences in IP maturity when it comes to open innovation. All the collaboration partners may be at different levels, of this IP maturity ladder. And the last one is level of control. Again, tied to your review mechanism. You must know where to control and how to control. So again, not all your IP within your open innovation would be at the same level of control. There could be something which is, you're happy to share, and there could be something which is so sensitive that yes, you can share, but there has to be a much more stringent review process, much more stringent contracts in place, if you have to share that. So it's very important to realize and understand where that level of control lies, how much control you need to have in that IP open innovation process. Okay. Using IP data for innovation. So IP data can be extremely helpful. Things like looking at volume of patents in a certain technology, as I just shared, the number of patents filed in renewable space. So just looking at the trend of patent filing can be extremely helpful and valuable, and just see where the industry is going, where people are filing most patents. Those sorts of things can be a major factor in your innovation. Technological classifications. So I don't know if you guys know, so most of the all the patents are classified under some patent classifications, so they can play a major role. Again, just seeing which technology categories most patents are being filed in particular year. Forms of innovation. So is it joint R&D where the people are filing patent? Is it tech specialization? Is a company trying to build a lot of patents around a particular niche technology, or they're trying to go a bit broad? So those are the kind of areas you need to consider. Key inventors. Again, if you're looking for an independent inventor to collaborate, or you just want to see, you're interested in a very particular small piece of technology, and you want to see who is the most active inventor in that space, so that you can contact him or her, and just see if he or she is willing to work with you. So, the key inventors which you can get from IP data would be extremely valuable. Collaboration partners, again, looking at what are the key patent filers in a particular technology, because you can identify if they can be your collaboration partners there. Again, look at if they are filing any joint IP, which means they're more open for collaboration. And of course, markets of interest, looking at which jurisdictions people are filing in, and then you can just see, which are the markets which are growing in a particular area of technology. So that brings me to the end of this session. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your patience. You can contact me, by our social media channels, visit us on our website, or you can contact us at info@clientport.com. There are loads of questions popping up there. So let me just see how many I can take. I'm conscious of the time. So there is a question from Lakman saying difference between undisclosed information and trade secret. Very interesting question. So undisclosed information can be a trade secret, but the vice versa is not true. So even if you have kept an information undisclosed, not necessarily you've protected it as a trade secret. So when you actually take sufficient measures to protect your undisclosed information, then it becomes a trade secret. So as simple as that, your undisclosed information may not be an IP right, but your trade secret is an IP right. Yeah. There is a question from Chris. What would you be your key golden tip advice to startups that operate in clean tech? Yeah, really good question, Chris. I would say my key advice would be mindful of your IP. Do not, when I say open innovation, again, as I said, it does not mean you do not have to think of your IP, and do not put your IP on back burner and see, oh, when we commercialize, we'll think about it. You will miss the boat, and you will be, don't say what people say, oh, we'll cross the bridge when we get there. Trust me, if you don't think of your IP at early stages, you will never even get to the bridge, let alone crossing it. So yes, I think my key message would be very mindful of your IP at early stages. Okay. Any other question? Right, so there is a question. It says, it takes 18 months to get a patent. What to do before that, because marketing and sales for a startup, one can't wait for 1.5 years. Kindly advise. Yes, of course. Once you have filed your patent, you have covered your ground. You have reserved your priority rights. So by all means, you can talk about and you can build your product. You can talk to people about your marketing and stuff. But of course, you have to still be careful. Do not talk in technical details about your filed technology, because of course it's still not published yet, and there is a risk there. So by all means, you should be a bit more careful. But having said this, you have reserved your priority right, you have filed your patent application. By all means, you should begin your commercialization process. You can talk to people. Just be a bit mindful. Just have all the usual IP confidentiality agreements and stuff in place. Another thing is, you can go for early publication. So if you think that you must discuss, but you're kind of fearful, go for early publication. You can. There is a provision in most of the jurisdictions to go for early publication, and if you think that can help with your with your commercial and marketing efforts, you can take that path. Of course, everything comes with its pros and cons. So I would highly recommend, whatever stage you're going, talk to your IP attorney or your patent advisors, and they can guide you what's the right thing for you to do. Yeah. Right. I think I'm mindful of the time. So thank you all for listening. Thanks for being very patient listener and very active participants in the session. As I said, you can contact me through our website or through our social media channels. And of course, Rahul can share my details later as well. So yeah, I think we are good to close this session. Rahul, if you have any last thoughts, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll just bring the session to close.
Thank you so much, Raj. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining us. We will hopefully have more sessions like this. So stay tuned. Make sure that you are in our mailing list so that you can keep getting these updates. I would really like to thank Govind and Praj for the sessions, and the same URL works like a recorded video. So feel free to use it later. And yeah, have a great evening and a great weekend ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.